Sexual shame is a well-documented outcome of non-consensual sexual experiences. It involves a deep sense of inadequacy regarding a person's sexual identity and desires. Researchers recently investigated how religious environments, specifically strict teachings about sex, relate to these feelings of shame. A recent study focused on purity culture. This is a widespread movement within evangelical Christianity that promotes strict sexual ethics. It frames sex exclusively as a sacred act meant for heterosexual marriage, emphasizes abstinence through purity pledges, and often places the responsibility of preventing sexual behavior onto women. To understand how these messages relate to psychological recovery, researchers surveyed 301 adults from the southeastern United States. The participants were sexually active adults currently in romantic relationships. The researchers divided them into 3 groups. One group had survived childhood sexual abuse. Another group had experienced non-consensual sexual encounters in adulthood. The third group served as a control with no history of non-consensual sexual experiences. Participants completed detailed questionnaires about their history of unwanted sexual experiences, their current feelings of sexual shame, and their exposure to purity culture. The purity culture assessment measured both how much messaging they heard during childhood and how much they agreed with those beliefs as adults. The researchers found that survivors of both childhood sexual abuse and adult non-consensual experiences reported higher levels of sexual shame than the control group. When looking at purity culture, childhood exposure to these teachings predicted higher levels of sexual shame for men. This association remained even after accounting for the trauma of the non-consensual experiences. For women, the relationship between childhood exposure and sexual shame was present, but slightly less pronounced. While purity culture places a disproportionate burden on women, the movement promotes distinct scripts for men and women. For a man who experiences sexual abuse, the victimization directly conflicts with the religious script of male dominance. When looking at adulthood, current acceptance of purity culture beliefs predicted higher sexual shame for both men and women. Internalizing these beliefs was linked to increased self-blame. Because the study collected data at a single point in time, it cannot prove that purity culture causes sexual shame. The researchers also noted that religion and sex are not inherently bad when intertwined. Instead, the specific messages about sex and how an individual interprets them are what matter for sexual well-being. Learn more about this study and other fascinating research at PsyPost.org.